Hello, everyone. I'm the Honorable Ron Villanueva. Today, joined with the Honorable Senator Emmett Hanger from Augusta County. As part of our civic engagement platform, we're here to talk about some important issues that are going to be on the ballot this November. One of them is our redistricting effort, where we have a constitutional amendment. Senator Hanger has been a champion, a statesman here in Virginia, and he's a straight shooter. And one of the things he wanted to talk about is why it's important to support Amendment 1, the constitutional amendment. Emmett, welcome, and say hello to everyone and tell us a little bit about your efforts.
Well, thank you, Ron. As you are aware, I've been working on this for a number of years. Our current process for redistricting, which has to happen every 10 years, the fair process is for equally drawn districts, so that you have basically the same number of people in each legislative district. That for Virginia, that's the House of Delegates and the State Senate, and for Congress, we also draw the lines for our congressional representatives, which we currently have 11 members of in Congress in the House of Representatives. So we draw those lines. In the past, the majority party has just had a field day, and it's understandable. It's grown into an art now with all the computer technology, where you can draw some pretty weird looking districts, which basically tend to serve incumbents and the party in power. So we've been working for years to try to get a constitutional amendment to change that, so we could set up a statute that would be more fair for the representatives. One of the slogans now is, that the citizens should choose their legislators rather than the legislators choosing their citizens, and that's what it's about. There is an amendment on the Constitution. It got there because we had two sessions of the General Assembly that approved the language in identical language, and that's on the ballot. It seemed like it was going to be a no-brainer, that it would easily pass. Because we've had Republicans and Democrats, particularly last year before the election, that we didn't really know who was going to be in control of the General Assembly. So everybody seemed to be in favor of doing something, kind of hedging our bets. Now that it's out there, there are organizations that are actually pushing back on it. And the truth of the matter is, when the citizens, the voters of Virginia, understand what it's all about, I think they will overwhelmingly support it. So it's our job right now just to get education out there so that people understand the implications of the legislation.
I mean, I remember, I served in the House for well over 8 years. My district, the 21st House District, was created in the early 90s, and that's when the Democrats had control of the House and the Senate, I believe. And you talk about gerrymandered districts. The 21st House District was created for Northern Virginia, and the way it was designed, it was designed almost like a funky chicken. You had the head, and then
right.
You had the body, and then the 2 feet, and it was exactly what it looked like. Again, it's important for citizens to understand and have a voice, and that's what you're trying to promote. You started a new political action committee called Virginians for a Better Tomorrow, which is focused on these redistricting efforts. Why all of a sudden, I was part of the legislature that helped design this constitutional amendment. There was buy-in from both sides. Why now? Why do you see strong opposition against this amendment?
Well, there are a couple reasons, and some of it has some validity. There were proposals. In fact, I had a proposal. I was honored to carry the work product of a bipartisan commission that came up with a recommendation for how it could be done. And one of the recommendations, if you will, it was that there would be no legislators involved, that it would all be citizen members. And at any rate, that was changed in the process. The current proposal has legislators on it, but it also has 8 citizen members and a process for getting those people in place to make the decision and draw the maps. So that's a part of it. I think it's really an issue of some people wanting to get the perfect in place of the good. And the truth of the matter is, I think we would be foolish not to accept the good. If we accept this constitutional amendment, It will be so much better. The process can be so much better than the process we currently have, which allows legislators in the majority party to basically control the configurations. And as you suggested, you get some pretty weird districts, which really don't support compactness. They don't support community of interest. The other reason is there's some concern, and in my opinion, that's not well founded from a racial standpoint, from the Black Caucus, that they think that there is an opportunity for some mishandling of the outcomes. I've not bought into that, and we've actually been working on the statute that would need to be put in place if the constitutional amendment passes to basically take care of that, so that it will be a fair process, it will be balanced, and the opportunity for mischief, which in serving, there's always politicians can always figure out a way for a little bit of mischief, but for the most part, this is a very straightforward process, which will be so much better than what we have now. That waiting another 10 years to make it perfect is not a good solution. I think we can pass this, get the process in place, and then if anybody wants to fine tune it with some additional amendments to the Constitution, it's fairly easy to amend the Constitution in Virginia, as you know. We can make it better over time, but right now I think it's a great step forward.
I mean, this effort talks about drawing fair maps, and it equals fair representation. Would you say the reason why we have this amendment is because we don't have fair representation, or it's because parties tend to dictate, their power and draw these lines, and that's what makes that what doesn't make fair representation?
I think that has been the case in many instances, and it's essentially when you can have computer assisted maps that can be drawn, and essentially one of the techniques is, if you've got an area where there we'll say a lot of Democrats and Republicans would be drawing the line, you put all those Democrats, as many as you can, into one district, and then that frees up the surrounding districts with more of a Republican vote. And the opposite is true. If the Democrats are drawing it, they can pack Republicans into a district and then wiggle around to where you get a more Democrats in other districts surrounding that. The other issue that tends to happen when we draw the congressional lines is that, and this sometimes is a funny example of bipartisanship. You might have a Republican congressman and a Democrat congressman, and their staff come in and say, hey, here's where we'd like the lines to be. So they mutually agree that the Democrat wants more Democrats in his district, the Republican wants more Republicans in his district. So nobody objects, and so that's the way they do it, and it kind of helps them stay in office. And
that's what we've seen in the past. Both parties have been apt to doing that, and that's why it's important for the citizens to vote for Amendment 1. Vote yes.
Yes, that's for sure. And there are groups out there. There are people that are much better funded than I am, that with my new PAC, that have been involved with this for quite some time, that are out there pushing it. But I'm trying to organize to reach out directly to the voters and educate them statewide, so they can make their choice. And in my opinion, once they're educated, they'll vote for it.
Well, I mean, you've always been about the grassroots as long as I've known you, and this effort is tremendous. The Virginians, all Virginians need to know about it and be on board. You mentioned earlier about the Black districts. I've always looked at that, being a minority in our party. And then when we look at these maps, when we look at these districts, because of the Voting Rights Act, we've carved out Black districts.
Yeah, exactly.
We created Black districts and we protected them.
Mm-hmm.
And if we talk about fair representation, how do you balance that and what are our efforts for the constitutional amendment?
Well, certainly the Voting Rights Act is still in place. There are certain guidelines that we must adhere to, and that's fair. And but I hope we move in a direction where we in Virginia come out from under the requirements of the Voting Rights Act, because we will have behaved, if you will, and that we have been shown to the feds and to ourselves that we have fairly drawn districts. I hope for a time, and we shouldn't be. We've had a kind of a blip right now with all that's been going on over the last several months, but race relations really had been on improving significantly over the years from back when I was a youngster and from when I first began to represent the Shenandoah Valley in the legislature. I would hope that in the very near future, you know, whether an individual is Hispanic, Black, white, indigenous, would not really be an issue. It's kind of like Bobby Scott. You know, Bobby Scott has been able to thrive in, I believe, in, you know, in at times a majority district that was a majority party white, and it's because he's, you know, he's a good legislator, and he's shown that. Obviously, Bobby, you know, the divide should be what his policies are. You know, he's a Democrat, and sometimes he supports things that I don't support. And so I would not vote for him because he's Black. I'd vote for him because his policies are different, and that's where we need to get to.
So let's talk about your PAC. It's Virginians for a Better Tomorrow. You could visit at its website,
Right.
And you could contribute. And is that PAC going to be remaining after November elections?
Yes, it will. In fact, you know, as you know, I've been around a while, and I've been fortunate to be involved in some of the significant amount of the decision making, particularly over the last 10 or 12 years in my service in the Senate. And but I thought this would be a good vehicle for working on issues. And the issue number one right now, of course, is the constitutional amendment. But I want to continue working on issues like that, and in so doing, attempt to raise my profile. I think I'm reasonably well known throughout the state because I worked a lot, particularly on rural issues down in your neck of the woods. I've been down there a lot on a lot of different issues, and I love the whole state. So in any given year, I'm putting 50,000 miles on my car just driving around, not because I'm campaigning, but just because I'm all over the place in the state parks and you name it, I'm there. And so I think this will afford me an opportunity to promote issues. Also, it's been suggested, some have approached me about the possibility of running for governor next year. And that's, you know, that's kind of in the back of my mind now. You don't just become governor with saying, well, I'd like to be governor. You have to basically cultivate roots, friendships, and support throughout the state. And there are other people out there doing that. And I just want to put my voice out there and assist primarily on policy. But in this instance, I'm hoping good works will lead to good results. And, you know, and if I were to choose to seek that office, which would be a great honor, then I'll have the support throughout the Commonwealth to be a viable candidate.
Senator, you're certainly a good person. I mean, I'm a traditionalist too. You have strong experience in the policy sector. You're a former veteran. You started your political career at local office, being a commissioner of revenue.
Right. Yeah.
In the House, you've obtained a lot of the good experience to be a good, effective executive in Richmond, and we wish you a lot of success on that. Emmett, if folks want to get in touch with you, how do they get in touch with you?
Well, of course, I've got a couple websites out there, emmetthanger.com. I've got the news site for the Virginians for a Better Tomorrow, which is out there, which they can Google and get that and get on and learn a bit about what we're doing and what I've been doing in the past. Direct contact, I like for people to email me. My Senate district office is District 24, which they can always use to contact me. And my personal email is emmetthanger@aol.com if anybody wants to drop me a note. And I'm getting lots of notes dropped to me these days, so I appreciate contacts, and I try to personally focus on all of them. So if you know, those are the best ways to get a hold of me. If anybody needs to contact me on the phone, my phone is published, and they can do that as well.
Emmett, thank you for joining us for our civic engagement platform with regards to the constitutional amendment. Thanks, Emmett.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity.